Hello, everybody. Over the last few weeks, we've been running a series of CQC registration webinars for case managers, and they were actually not really a webinar, but more of a Q&A. And because it was a Q&A and we wanted people to feel free to ask questions, we didn't record any of the sessions. So what we wanted to do, Tracey Clarke and myself wanted to revisit the 3 sessions and put it all together so that you have all of the information in one recording. So today we'll be going through the CQC registration for case managers, and we'll be looking at, as a case manager, should you be registered, and getting started with your registration and the initial interview. So I will introduce you now to the lovely Tracey Clarke, who is the MD for virtual administration. And we've worked a lot with Tracey, and Tracey supports case managers when they're completing their registration. And I should have introduced myself for anybody watching this who I haven't yet met. My name is Sally Britton, and I am MD of Snap Care, and we recruit for specialist support workers for children and adults with disabilities. So I will pass you over to Tracey, and she'll tell you a little bit about herself, and then we will go through the different sessions and the 3 different sessions. Thank you, Tracey.
Thanks, Sally. Welcome, everybody. It's great to be able to put this together with Sally and give a little bit more information, put people's minds at rest with regards to the whole registration process, whether you should be registered or not, going through the actual submission process and the initial interview. So I look forward to starting going through all the questions.
Thank you. So, as a case manager, should you be registered with CQC? The $1 million question. So this is actually a letter. We want to just start with this because this was received from CQC, and it just indicates how there is a bit of a discourse between the understanding from CQC of actually what a case manager is. And that is what we find. We're finding that it's getting better as there are more applications from case managers. But CQC was not set up with case managers in mind, and there is definitely still some explaining that needs to be done about what actually a case manager is and what you guys do, and whether or not it is appropriate to be registered. So that's sort of a hurdle that everybody needs to kind of get through. But as I say, it is getting better as more case managers are registering. But just to be aware that they don't always know exactly what a case manager does.
Absolutely, Sally. And to give a little bit more emphasis on this, anybody that's coming to the CQC website from new, it's a challenging website to get around. It's not obvious straight away where you fit in as a case manager. What the CQC would say if you gave them a ring and had a chat with one of their customer service advisors is they would point you to the CQC website, and they would ask you to go under the guidance providers part on the front part, and then go into where it says adult social care. But obviously, plenty of people say, well, we work with children as well, where does that fit in? So it is about trying to navigate the website the best you can, but hopefully we'll be able to kind of clarify and answer those questions as much as possible. So the first part that I would definitely want to talk about first is the regulated activity. There are a number of regulated activities, but the one that we're looking at that fits in with the case managers is personal care. So if you've got any clients at all that you deal with, that they have personal care support with support workers, then most definitely you need to be registered with the CQC.
And this, I think, when we talked about it before, Tracey, this is very much unless you actually have all of your support staff through agencies, whereas, and then obviously the agency would then be the organisation who would need to be registered with CQC. And but I think that doesn't really fit with most of the case managers. Well, I can't actually think of one case manager that we work with where that would fit. And I think it's also about the taking on clients in the future. And it will be almost impossible to take on clients in the future who do need to have this activity, this regulated activity, and that you're supervising. So it's really affects most case managers.
So yes, the regulated activity of personal care, when I first started looking at it before, it wasn't obvious to me what is personal care. So I think it's just good to illustrate, really. It's probably a daft question to case managers who already know this, but just as a kind of, to reiterate, the personal care side of things is the physical assistance to a client. So if you've got support workers that are helping a client to, help with their eating, drinking, toileting, bathing, dressing, oral care, medications management, all that side of things, and the prompting or supervising of the types of personal care listed above, then that is absolutely definitely comes under the regulated activity of personal care. Now, as a case manager, if you do any of the following areas here, as for personal care, then definitely you do need to be registered. So it's very much about, if you create and you review the care plan, obviously working with the client, the family to pull the care plan together, most definitely need to be registered. And obviously if you monitor the personal care provided by the support workers, so if you're supervising them, if you're giving them direction, all that side of things, you're organising rotas, every that part of side of things with the support workers, then absolutely definitely need to be registered. There are other parts as well. So if you're seeking the views of the clients receiving the service, that's another area as well.
And it goes on.
And it goes on, it most certainly does go on. We even say, even where the deputy is the employer of the support worker and you as the case manager are responsible for the direct provision of the care to the client, you still need to be registered. Even, and again, I'm going to say it again, even where the deputy, as in the court of protection, if the deputy is the employer, you're still doing the job of supervising, putting in the training, doing all the rotas, so you still need to be registered. So as mentioned, we've talked about what are the main areas for being registered. What doesn't apply is if the deputy or the employment agency introduces a support worker to the client, but then has no further involvement at all. And the same as well, when the client takes responsibility for the provision of their own care under their own personal budget or private arrangement, then in many instances with that, possibly a case manager might not be involved anyway, but it is very much those 2 points there that are exempt.
So this is a snippet of a letter that was sent, or an email, I think it was a letter or an email, that came through to a case manager. And we've heard of a few case managers who have received this letter, and this in one case in particular was actually the first communication that they had had from CQC. And we've put this up here, not because we want to terrify people and anything, but we just want to make you aware that this is an automated email basically, but it's obviously quite a serious email, and is saying that you may have committed a criminal offence, and you might get fined, and you could even have a prison sentence. So it's a very harsh kind of letter, and so we just wanted to draw your attention to it, just in case. You've probably all heard about this because I'm sure it sort of goes through the grapevine of the case managers, but just in case you haven't, we just wanted to put this up here. So that if you did ever receive one of these, well, Tracey will now tell you what you need to do.
Most definitely don't panic. Please don't panic. As Sally said there, it is an automated email. I think this happens on the odd occasion where the people that are dealing with the applications are the first emails through, if they see something that's missing or whatever, instead of just giving the case manager the opportunity to provide the information back, they sometimes will send that letter out as well, which most certainly is not necessary. And when you go back to the CQC and explain what's happened, they will obviously give you time to put things in place. At the end of the day, the CQC are more concerned that you're in the process, that you're actually going ahead and doing the actual process of becoming registered. So I always say, please do not be alarmed by that email. But quite rightly, I think anybody that's, you know, new to it, it would be enough to you know, to frighten the life out of anybody. So yes, hope that helps.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, so we put don't panic and don't ignore it either. You can't just sort of like put your head in the sand and kind of think,
No.
oh, well, this will just kind of go away. But there is lots of information out there, and as I say, Tracey supports case managers to go through the registration process, and her website has lots of information. There will be a fact sheet that will go along with this this recording, which we'll put up, so you don't feel that you have to kind of, as you're watching this, write everything down. We will put lots of links and some useful information in the fact sheet that will be available. So we did the sessions in three parts. And now we'll talk about part 2, which is getting started with your CQC registration. So you've realised that yes, as a case manager, you do need to be registered, and this is now we're going to talk about how you're going to get started with that.
So just to give you a basic timeline, because it's a general question that people ask, is how long does the process take? You know, what's involved and how long do things, you know, how quick, you know, do things move? So typically what they say is that once you've filled out all your application documents, which I'm going to show you after this slide, once you've sent everything into the CQC and they're happy with any questions, you know, backwards and forwards emails, typically you wait roughly about 14 to 16 weeks for them to confirm that everything is absolutely okay and to offer you an initial interview with a regional inspector. And usually they will give you a couple of weeks notice, as in a date in advance. Don't ever be afraid of going back to them to say, you know, this date that you've given me for my initial interview it's not convenient. I've got you know, I've either got some holiday, annual leave, or I've got an MDT meeting on that date. Don't ever be afraid to go back to them and say, look, you know, that date's not suitable. Can we do ABC? You know, give them some dates instead. So don't feel that you're under pressure to just stick to that date. So once you've done your initial interview, it will be a phone call, and it can then take anything between 2 to 3 hours. And once you've had that, they will go away. They won't tell you straight away. They will go away. They will kind of reflect, go everything that they've, you know, all the questions and everything, and they will come back to you. They will ask for other documents if there's anything missing, but they should come back to you and confirm that you're officially registered, and you'll get a certificate to say, yep, you're definitely registered. And you will have on the CQC website, they will put you a profile on the CQC website, so anybody searching will be able to bring you up and will instantly be able to see that you're registered with CQC and that you're now just waiting now for your actual physical inspection where you get your actual rating. And as it says on there, once you've had your certificate, you're then waiting anything between 6 to 12 months for your actual proper inspection.
And with the ratings that they give you, is it generally that they give the same sort of rating for everybody on this initial registration, or does it vary?
Well, you don't get any kind of rating on initial interview. It's just really, I mean, the initial interview is very much to check that you're fit to be the registered manager. Okay. And it's really that process. They will go through very detailed questions. They will, which I shall talk over in the next slide. So you don't actually get any kind of rating. It's more.
Okay, you just get registered.
You just get registered.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So we're talking about the actual your submission, your actual, you know, kind of like putting all your documents together for your actual registration process. And there are these documents here that you download from the website, from the CQC website. So you'll have your new provider application, and you'll have your registered manager application. And the registered manager application, I think it's got about 25 pages to it, whereas the new provider one, it's got about 90 pages to it. So they're quite big documents, and they can be quite kind of questions on there that you may find a bit of a challenge to answer. But all the information, it is about going back onto the CQC website and doing a bit of kind of like what I call Sherlock Holmes detective work and trying to find information out. So you've got your two registered, your two application forms, and then you'll have what they call the statement of purpose, and that comes in 4 parts. And they're quite straightforward to fill in, apart from they want to know what your aims and objectives are. And it's like a kind of like an A4 page that they want you to fill in. And it's just very much going about what are your aims and objectives of running your case management company. So again, you should be able to, if you've got a website, you should be able to look at, your about us page, your vision, all that side of things, and pull that information together. They will also want to know, your basic contact details, your legal entity, whether you're a limited company or if you're an individual, and the actual places where you provide the actual service. So you're seeing your clients in the home or in hospital. So it's that kind of information that they want to know. And then the final part here is the financial viability, and it's a form that you can download again off the website, off the CQC website. And it's a basic form that what you need to do is give to your accountant, and it's just basically for him to verify that yes, absolutely, this company is in a good financial position, because that's what the CQC want to know. They want to know, are you are you properly set up? Are you financially viable to run your company? Now, of course, obviously, if you're a brand new company and you've got no kind of, you've got no track record, you've not had your first year of, year-end accounts, that you're coming in blank, what we always suggest is go back to your accountant and see if they can come up with helping you put together a forecast of figures, so that the CQC can kind of have an idea of, potentially what client work you are likely to get in against your expenses, and to show that you are actually going to be running a profitable business. The documents to send with the application. So it's not just the actual, all those documents I've just mentioned that you download off the website. There's all these as well. So they will definitely want to see a business plan. And your business plan, really, because you're not seeking financial help, you're not wanting to look for a business angel or anything like that. Your business plan is there really for, it's for you to do your submission to the CQC. So make it fit that, it'll have all these typical things. It'll have your SWOT analysis in there, it'll have your marketing, it'll have your operational plans. It'll show the people, kind of like who your competitors are, all that kind of stuff. So it's really important that you have a business plan and all these other documents. Make sure you're registered with the ICO for data protection. Make sure that you send in your sample care plan. So it doesn't have to be a care plan that's got all that's already filled in. If you've got a skeleton version, that would be great. And the biggest thing is, don't send your documents in the post. Always kind of like do them by email. And most importantly of all, your actual submission will be rejected if you don't do all these documents. They seem to be very much, it's not a case of kind of like you're missing this and this. They seem to be more kind of saying, your application has been rejected and you need to do this and this. So it's a bit of a backwards and forwards liaison with the CQC, but you will see once you give it a go.
I think that's a sort of a point to make as well, Tracey, isn't it? That this is a two-way process, and it's really important that you contact CQC and you develop a relationship with somebody or with people at CQC, because I mean, it's helpful because it makes it a much more balanced kind of process, but they actually like it as well.
Yes.
So they really like to hear from you, to actually, even if it's a question that you've got, they like to know that actually you're serious about this, that you want to be careful about it, that you're actually doing the right things and everything. So we found that when we registered with CQC, that actually that was a big sort of change for us, is that they really did like us to kind of contact them, and the woman that I spoke to actually sort of said, oh, it's great that you kind of like, you know, you stay in touch and you communicate with us. So often we have no communication, and it's very difficult to actually really sort of assess that, you know, that person, because really it is about the person when you're an individual, you know, case manager, and obviously it's your company that is going to be registered, not you as an individual, but you are dealing, you know, with one person to another. So definitely don't feel shy to kind of contact them and start that dialogue. I think that's really, really helpful.
Yeah, most definitely.
So the last part is getting inspection ready.
So this is very much about the initial interview. So as I mentioned when we showed you the timeline, once you've sent in your application and it's been accepted, they expect that, you know, they may take, you know, 10 to 14 weeks to go through, obviously with the backlog of COVID and everything. They will eventually get in contact with you by email and offer you a date for your, what they call the initial interview, and that's usually with a regional inspector, and it'll be a phone call. It'll be a Zoom kind of a screen call, and it's usually about 2 or 3 hours, and it can be quite intimidating and overwhelming. We've so far worked with 5 of the case managers that have already gone through their initial interviews, and they've all told me it is a bit of a roller coaster ride, but they get through it. So to start off with, before you have your initial interview, they will give you an email asking what they call provider information request, and it's all these things here detailed that they will want to ask from you. So some of the things are a bit kind of, they make you think, well, why would they want that? They will want to see whether you've got a mortgage or whether in your rented accommodation, they will want to see a letter from either your landlord or your mortgage company to confirm that you are that they are happy with you working from home. It sounds really crazy, you know, you're a homeowner, your house is yours, but they still want to see a letter from your mortgage company saying yes, you've got permission to you know, run your business from home. So that's one of the first things that they will ask. Sometimes they will want you to provide them with a risk assessment if you're working from home, and on the odd occasion they will ask as well, they want to see a floor plan of your office and your fire exits. It does seem strange, but it is something that they do ask for, along with all these other questions as well. A lot of them you should be able to answer. You know, they'll want to see a copy of your loan working policy. You know, they'll want to see details of the organisation's audit schedule. So if you carry out your audits and you do one a month, something like a training audit, and you know, a medicines management audit, a recruitment audit, your training audit, they want to see all this kind of information. It all comes part of checking to make sure that you're, you know, you as the registered manager, that you're running a proper organised kosher business at the end of the day. That's what they're trying to get to the bottom of.
And I think one of the things that we found is that they aren't expecting you to know every single policy verbatim. You couldn't, because there are just so many of them. But what they do want is they want to know that you've got those policies and that you can access those policies. And so you know exactly very easily how to access those policies. And yeah, but they don't expect you to be able to reel off absolutely word for word, because there are a lot of them. Yeah. So there is an awful lot of paperwork that goes with this. But, yeah.
So as I mentioned, you know, the regional inspector, as part of your 2 or 3 hour phone call, they will most definitely go through your application form, you know, your employment history, They will most definitely want to ask you about, with regards to what's your experience, your skills in with regards to leadership and management. And yes, case managers do get a little bit concerned. To give you examples, you know, not everybody has been on a leadership management training course, so it's good to dig through, you know, your times when you worked in the NHS, when you managed a team. It's more about explaining to the inspector, give them a proper, you know, run through of what you did back in when you worked in the NHS, or when you worked for another case management company before. You know, were you in charge of, did you supervise? It's all this information that they want to hear about you. It builds the picture. You know, if they want to then ask if you would be happy to go on a refresher course, then yes, of course you would. But really, they are wanting to know what your background is, and that you can confirm, you know, that that you know your stuff, that you can do what you can do. So that's the biggest thing, part of it. Yeah, and no, that's fine. Hints and tips, most definitely. So they want, as I mentioned there, fitness to be registered, asking your mortgage or landlord to confirm that you're okay to work from home. Having a business continuity plan, that's a really important document. You have to think that many case management companies, as we work from home, a lot of case management companies, they may be just one director. They may have a team of associate case managers, but it's usually just one director. And putting in place a business continuity plan with such worst scenario, you know, what happens to the company if something happens to the director? How does the company carry on? You know, who runs the business? Is it going to be closed down? What happens to all the documents and the information saved on the computer, on the server, personal information, about all the archived information of people's? You know, it's all these things that you have to show in your business continuity plan. Who's going to kind of like step in your shoes and deal with everything? It's like, who's going to be able to access the business bank account, all the passwords for all the different, you know, logins and everything like that. So it's really massively important that you have a business continuity plan document that somebody can literally pick up and run with. It's hugely important. So the other parts, very, very much, is they will definitely want to make sure that you understand, you know, as part of Schedule 3 of the Health and Social Care Act. They will definitely want to know all about that side of things as well. Key lines of inquiry. This is how I describe the key lines of inquiry. It's like the Bible for the, well, it's like your table legs of a table. It's what everything sits on. They use the key lines of inquiry, which is a whole host of questions which cover the 5 areas, which is safe, effective, caring, responsive and well-led, those 5 areas. And I think under the well-led one, there must be about 50 questions. You know, each one of them has got a hell of a lot of questions. And what you need to do is you need to evidence each of all these questions and show, which is a good way to do it, is to put it on a spreadsheet and then fill that, you know, that spreadsheet, put in extra columns to show how you're going to be able to evidence all the questions using all these things around the edges. So evidence from your care plans, MDT meetings, any technology that you or the MDT members have put in place to make the quality of life of a client work better. Draw on all your policies and procedures, your training records, data protection, all the regulations, and most definitely your customer service feedback. You know, a couple of times a year you may ask them to fill in a feedback form. Ask your clients, your team members, your support workers, all your other stakeholders. Everybody is part of your MDT meeting. So all these parts here are all areas that you can pull information from to answer all those questions on the key lines of inquiry. And then we've got your fundamental standards, and these are the Health and Social Care Act 2008 regulations that include the fundamental standards. And here's just a few of them, which, if you can understand, they fit into the key lines of inquiry. So, you know, you've got person-centered care, safety complaints, And like, so for example, when you're looking at your key lines of inquiry that I mentioned before, and I think of well-led, well, most definitely for the well-led, the good governance would go into there, and the complaints would go into there. And obviously, you know, as part of the 5 Chloes, the key lines of inquiry, safety would go into the safe part, and the person-centered care, well, that will go into all 5. So it's, again, it's thinking how you can use the fundamental standards as well. And then your statutory notifications. Now, all these forms are on the CQC's website. And basically what they do is they are the regulations as mentioned there, and there's a number of them, and they cover anything from you know, safeguarding issues if you've had a client or you know, within the company with regards to abuse, if there's been a death of a person using your service, any serious injury, and even down to, for example, changing contact details. So when you first put in your CQC submission, you may have put in an address where you were at that time, but you know, 6-12 months down the line, you might have moved house and you're working from home from your new house. When you moved house, you need to make sure that you give the address, the contact details, change your telephone number, anything like that. Make sure the CQC have got that, because if they come out and do an inspection, they may go to your old house, which would not be good.
It's not going to work very well.
No, they're not going to be too impressed. So again, there's a form on there on the CQC website. You would just need to search statutory notifications and scroll down until you find the one that mentions changes of contact details. Policies, as Sally knows, there are hundreds of them. It feels like it anyway. Yeah, there's a lot of them. Obviously covering mountains of areas, those mentioned there: complaints, medications management, safeguarding, training, recruitment, absolutely everything. And again, what Sally said, you know, the CQC don't expect you to be a walking encyclopedia and be able to ravel off every policy, you know, verbatim. It's more about you having an understanding. You can kind of, you know, if they ask about something, you can point to it, whether it's on, you know, in a folder on your computer so that you can show them, or whether it's in a file, you know, a lever arch file. It's more that they want to make sure that you've got it in place and you can show them.
And in the sessions, we were talking about, some people were asking about whether or not it's good to have a package, because you can get a package where policies are all provided for you, and of course that might be you know, people's kind of choice to do that. But I think we're also saying that there's a danger there that you have all of the policies because somebody else has supplied them, but really you don't actually know those policies, and they're not actually effective for your business. So really the value of them is, you know, is more ticking a box kind of thing, rather than actually creating your own policies that mean something and that are going to add value to your service. And I think you help people with their policies, don't you, at
we do
virtual admin? Yeah,
we do, definitely.
Yeah.
So basically then what happens is that once you've had your initial interview, a 2 to 3 hours initial interview, your registered manager will go away, reflect, look at everything, you know, the discussion, you go through everything, and they will come back to you. And obviously if there's any kind of documents that they may ask, they want to see a different policy, they may ask about, you know, can you provide me more information on, you know, your previous employment, that side of things. But they will come back to you. It might take a couple of days, but they will come back to you and say, yes, you are registered, you are now registered with the CQC, and here's your certificate. They'll email you a certificate, and they'll also put you onto the CQC's website with a profile page. So anybody searching on the CQC website looking for your company name, they will find you, they'll see that you're registered and that you're waiting for your official inspection that gives you your actual rating.
Very good. So you will be very joyful, and then you'll probably pop a little thing on LinkedIn to tell everybody, and
yes,
then
and have a drink.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
But I think it is very, you know, there are lots of the paperwork for sure. There's so much kind of to do, but I think that it can be quite a useful process. Some of it you think, really, you need to have all of this, but I think it can be a useful process. And of course it is a legal requirement. So it's not that you're doing this because, you know, you kind of like think it'd be nice to do it. It is a legal requirement. And what we're finding is that what we're hearing is that there are solicitors who are starting already to say, well, we'll only work with a case manager if they are registered with CQC. And you know, so it may be that you're in a situation where you don't actually need to do it now, but I think you need to project forward and think, well, actually, you know, do I want to be able to take on clients who would fall into this? And so would it be better to sort of start the registration, you know, sooner rather than later, to sort of cover that eventuality.
Yeah, and interesting enough, I've had two case managers I'm working with send me through the very long-winded questionnaire that Erwin Mitchell are sending out to case managers. There's a lot of questions on there. A lot of it is repeat of what, you know, as in with regards to your submission, but there are some other questions that they will ask. So it's yeah, it's definitely happening. There are some solicitors that are now kind of like really wanting to make sure that the case managers that they're working with are at least on the journey of registering with the CQC.
Super. Well, thank you very much, Tracey, for that and for the other sessions that you did. It was they were all very very interesting. And for those of you watching, I hope that you found it useful information. We will, as I say, we will be putting together a fact sheet that will have lots of links and lots of contact details. You know, Tracey, for example, has there's one person at the CQC who really seems to be dealing with case manager applications. She has loads of information on her website, so we will put that up there, and along with the recording of this, you can access the fact sheet. So we'll have all of the information in there. And yeah, so thank you very much again, Tracey. And for those watching, I hope that was useful. And goodbye for now.